think we're about. Okay, hello and welcome to another Tech Tuesday. We're so glad to have you with us today, whether you're joining live or watching later on YouTube or whatever the case might be. So real quick, before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and drop in a few. We're not going to go through most of our commercials as we usually do, but I'm going to drop in some helpful links into the chat. So one of those links is actually kind of what we are talking about today. We're really excited because we have a guest with learning.com. We're going to be talking about adaptive keyboarding. But we want to make for sure that you're aware. I'm going to go ahead and drop those in the chat right now. One of those links is a link to our page about digital citizenship on our Midland ISD website. So please check that out. As you know, we're all going through this month is Digital Citizenship Month, and there will be some more information on there about how to look at some of those SIPA requirements for the lessons that you need to give your students. With that being said, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into this. Today, we're joined by Mr. Robert Sherer, and he is a professional development specialist with learning.com. And like I said, he's going to be training us today on adaptive keyboarding. So, Robert, take it away.
All right. Like I said, we're going to jump straight into this and welcome Genesis. We did a little bit of an introduction earlier for this, but we'll get it right into adaptive keyboarding because that is exactly what we need to be talking about here. After completing some direct instruction lessons and guided practice, once a student is in the third grade and up, they will move into adaptive keyboarding on the whole program so they can have independent practice to develop their technique, their accuracy, and their speed. Unlike the other easy tech lessons that you may have been familiar with and the other guided practices which have a clear beginning and an end, adaptive keyboarding just kind of runs automatically and continuously, and it's constantly modifying to help students and adults improve their accuracy and speed. The example I gave earlier was whether you're a third grader, 8 years old, that's just learning how to type, it will improve your typing. Whether you're a teacher that's been teaching for 20 years, you can use this program and it will improve your typing. It really makes you think. When I work through these lessons, sometimes it makes me think too much about the keyboard that I don't normally do. But there's different titles to it depending on what grade level you're working with. They're called the Great Keyboarding Adventure, Urban Keyboarding Explorers, and Archaeological Expedition. But that's just the names it'll be for the different grade levels. But if you'll look on this screen that you're seeing in front of you now, I hope you are seeing it. This says adaptive keyboarding. You see what is in this pretty much sums it up. Independent practice to develop their technique, accuracy, and speed. Everything's automatically assigned. And this is just a recommendation, 10 to 15 minutes. And I think that's supposed to say 2 times a week. I don't know what's happened to this slide, but I would say 2 times a week would be ideal. Can somebody give me some feedback? How much time your students generally would have to work on something like this, if you had to guess?
Not really sure. I think it might just be kind of depending on the subject. Maybe I'm not for sure. I guess I think most of the students are probably getting some of it 2 or 3, maybe even more times a week. But that might just be an educated guess there.
Right. Okay. Like I said, these are just some recommendations. If you really want to improve their typing, that's the way it is. And that does not fit into everybody's schedule, but a lot of times it does. But anyhow, we'll move on with this. As with many programs like in learn.com, there's an initial diagnostic so that it figures out where the students are. You have little hands on the keyboard that I'm going to show you how the students can turn off or on if they don't like them on there. And then there's 3 different types of exercises: muscle memory, word challenge, and zone challenge. And those are just basically the way the different lessons are set up and to help them do that. Each level begins, like I said, with a formative assessment so that they can figure out how accurate they are in their words per minute. And then it repeats that as they do about an hour of active typing. They don't have to do it continuously. Like if they do several 15-minute sessions until they get up to 60 minutes or whatever. The keystroke analysis is used to generate personalized instruction for each student. So like I said, the muscle memory, each student based on their most prevalent problems, keys. Like I said, if there's earlier in the training, if the system notices you're having a trouble with typing a certain type of letter or certain letters that go together to create a word, then it's going to give you more of that. Word challenge part of it. Exercise use the three most problem keys to prescribe words that have a high density. Again, same thing. It zeroes in on where your problem is and makes you have to type it more so you get better. But throughout the practice, students will always see their accuracy, their words per minute of the last 5 exercises that they've taken, and so it shows them where their problem areas are too, just for their information. Again, the student nor the teacher has to worry about where the problem areas are. It's just letting you know. Story challenges, like I said, they move into a skill area. They can pick whichever one they want to, spend about 15 minutes, and they're going for that 90% accuracy. And then keyboarding in the classroom, which is what y'all are talking about, that you're going to be using a lot of it in your regular classroom. You focus on the technique and accuracy. And then finally speed, and this is success. See, this one says 3 times per week. I thought there was a number missing out there. And again, this has gaming built into it. Again, I always have to mention to teachers, don't think of it as playtime. It just changes the format into a more gamified format temporarily, and it makes the kids enjoy it more, but they're still learning to type and they're improving their typing the whole time they're doing it. And so that is the way it goes with that. Now let me go ahead and go into a adaptive keyboarding screen. I'm going to go into a live screen and show you some things that the students themselves can do. So I'm going to go, I'm going to say I'm a 5th grader. I'm pulling 5th grade teacher, and I'm pulling those. So if I go into adaptive keyboarding, and also the way I'm accessing these lessons, you could do it anytime, whether you're a coordinator or a teacher, to see exactly what the students see, because you just go in and find, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go to library, go to keyboarding, and I'm going to go to pick my grade. I'm going to just go to 5th grade. And then the very first one is adaptive keyboarding, the great keyboarding adventure. And then I'm going to click on this play button, and that allows me to go in as a student. Okay. So the one other thing you need to do, you see that still says welcome Robert Sherer, and it would have your name there. It would say welcome Marissa Lopez. That's a key to you that you're still in as a teacher. Just go up to the top corner and click student mode, and then you are in as a student. All right. And you see what, so first thing it says, check your posture. It shows you the keys, and then says press the key, the space bar, and then you're off and running just like a student would be. So again, you see it's not letting me go on because I'm not typing correctly. And so it goes on like that. Now, what I wanted to bring you to this for, so let's say I'm a student, whatever grade I'm in, 3rd grade all the way up to high school, and I want to have some autonomy. I want to change this screen to suit me better. The students have a settings button, and so you, depending on what age group the teacher is working with, you decide you want to show them this right from the get-go, or you want to let them figure it out later, or have a class lesson and show them. But anyhow, once they press this, they have 5 settings that they have the power to change on their own. First one is turn the sounds off. I'm not sure if your students are going to have on headphones when they're typing, but that little don't sound, if you make a mistake, can be agitating to some students. It's a very good thing because it lets you know that you're making a mistake, but if they don't like it, they can turn it off. And definitely if they don't have headphones, that would be a good thing to encourage them to turn off so it's not making that sound. The letter size thing to me is not as important at all. It says you can make the letters show up bigger or smaller on the screen, but again, a student can decide that. It's set on, it defaults to medium. The keyboard case, again, I've almost never seen a keyboard with lowercase letters on it. But if for some reason that's what they wanted to do, they could change it to lowercase. Now, these next two to me are a little bit more important. One is keyboard color. The keyboard is designed, like I've said earlier, by someone a lot smarter than me into color zones, someone who's done brain research, and it will help them learn the keyboard more efficiently and a lot quicker if they'll leave that on. They have the option to turn it off. This is one, if I'm talking to my students, I would say, I would encourage you to leave it on. On the other hand, the hands thing, I can imagine if I'm a middle schooler or a high schooler, I don't need little hands on the keyboard showing me where to put my hands, because I know where the home row keys are, so they can push the button and turn that off if they so choose, so you don't see. So I'm going to go back in, go back to my practice into it. So you see how this got a shade of hands on there? That's what they're talking about. And you see the colors, they have the option to turn those things off, just to let you know that. So again, I've not been typing much on this because I was just getting you started, but you see at the top, today's stats, accuracy, words per minute, and how much time you practice. So they're constantly getting this feedback, as opposed to like back a long time ago, or how we all learned to type. You probably had to type and then get a paper back a couple of days after you typed it to see how well you did. So anyhow, so that's just letting you know that. All right, so I'm going to go back out of this and go back in as a teacher, so I can show you what options you have as a teacher. So I'm going back in, and now I'm back in as a teacher. Now watch what happens when I press the settings button this time. There's some very important things here, and I'm going to show you these 5 things that you can affect, and you can do this for a class, or you could do it for one student if you felt the need that would be beneficial to a student. This is set up by the people who develop the software according to the grade level that One Roster put them into the system. So this one, I'm already forgotten what grade level I was in. I think maybe 4th or 5th. Is saying that they need to be able to type 15 words a minute with 90% accuracy. You could change that. So an example of, obviously, to change that would be a child that's injured their arm, or a child that has a permanent handicap or disability. You want them to be able to achieve the badges that show that they're doing well in the program. You want them to earn game time. So you could change that for the whole class if you felt the need, or you could change it for one child if you think it would be beneficial for that one child. Jumping down to game time, what I was just mentioning, generally speaking, and it does this for a lot of grade levels, 30 minutes of straight up keyboarding, typing word after word, paragraph to paragraph, not in succession. It could be 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, but once they've done 30 minutes, then they earn 6 minutes of game time. Again, this is one of those things that someone else has set up, that developed the software, that they came up with. This is a good default setting. I could picture me in the classroom maybe around Christmas time. It's getting close to Christmas, and they're going to get out, and you're losing them. They're getting antsy. I might back down to 15 minutes of keyboarding would earn you 10 minutes of game time. That's a total thing up to a teacher. You don't have to, all these things I'm showing you, you don't have to do anything with, but you can. Grade level is done by One Roster. The assessment time limit is more important to me for the younger kids. That means when the system automatically goes into the assessment mode, in other words, when it's asking you to type nonstop to get a grade or to see where you are, how long should that be? This defaults right now on this grade level to 3 minutes. We have some in the younger grades that we might back that down to 1 minute or even a half a minute. So in other words, how long should that child have to type in succession without any interruption before it gets a read on how they're doing? Now, the good thing, the safety net is that button at the bottom. Let's say you started affecting one student, or you started affecting the class because of that deal I was talking about at Christmas time, and you gave them a bunch of extra game time, and you forget what it's supposed to be. You can always go right here as a teacher, hit the reset button, and it resets to that grade level as to what the developers of the software came up with as a good thing. All right, so that's a good bit of information on what a student can change and what a teacher can change. Anything on that you have a question on or want to make a comment on before I continue on? Again, all of that stuff, whether you're talking about a student or whether you're talking about a teacher, those are things they can change, but they don't have to. Nobody has to do anything with it. All right, so let's get back to our program with word processing. We haven't done a lot on processing, word processing yet, but of course, keyboarding leads right into that. But there's a whole range of word processing, spreadsheets, presentations, things like that. And word processing is probably the most extensive and essential for students to master. Of course, like all of us, typing papers, taking notes, we want them to understand how to use it, flawlessly so that they can get busy with their work and not spend their time figuring out what they should do. Word processing, of course, you see all the different things I mentioned: this, editing, proofreading, revising, formatting. And the older they are and the more advanced they get into the program, the more detailed it gets with that. All right. So let me just go into one real quick. I'm going to go into, let's say, a 7th grade lesson. Yes. So I'm going to go here. Oh, I'm so glad I'm able to change screens and y'all keep up with me. I can jump around a lot faster. I'm going to go back to my library where everything is stored. This time I'm going to go to productivity tools. And let me go to 7th grade. And the first thing it does is a pretest, which I'll skip that, of course, for now. But that is a skills check that lets the system know where they are and gets like a baseline data, so you can see when they do the final test, they'll see how they're doing. All right, creating professional documents. So I'm going to go into this lesson for y'all. I'm going to go in as a student. Josh, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down when I hit the play button and tell me, are you hearing this person talk? Hearing anything? All right.
Unfortunately, no. I was hearing it earlier on that last one that you did. We could hear it, but it might be because you're not. I don't think sound comes through if it's on
the window mode.
Yeah, and I forgot about that. I apologize.
It's fine. It's fine. But the point is, I was just want to show that these are all grade specific. Of course, a word processing lesson for a 3rd grader is going to be way different than one for a 7th or 8th or 9th grader or whatever. Also, I did want to show you this feature, and I'm not sure if y'all already have had this in some training about. Have y'all seen the closed caption feature, where the students can turn on closed captioning, and then they also can do the settings feature, which slows down the video if they think it needs to. Also, a very important feature is to teach them right from the get-go to log out properly by clicking the X. And if they can exit, then that saves their work. So again, if you as a teacher want to see what it is they're going to be working on, a real quick way to do it is you go to the tile, whether it's keyboarding or productivity tools, click on the tile, then pick your grade level, and then you have all the lessons here with all the instructions about information about them. But you click on this item name, the title there, and then there's a flyer print, word processing workview. The point is, once you click on that and then click the play button, then you become a student, and so you can see exactly. So like if a student has a question, say, I'm doing this lesson and I don't understand what I'm supposed to do, you can kind of quickly get into it and see it. Also, I want to make sure y'all, I'm assuming y'all already knew this from other training, what all else is available when you click on those titles before you go into the play mode. It tells you your lesson plan, your standards, all your objectives, everything's done for you. All the information that you need to teach an entire lesson is on that page as soon as you click on it. So library, productivity tools, 7th grade, and then as soon as I pick a lesson, here's one, following directions. They all need that from the very beginning. But again, you've got a lesson plan there, warm-up, activity, extensions, a rubric, and then you can switch to standards and see Texas Essential Knowledge Skills Standards or National ISD Standards and things such as that. So those are very, very, very thorough background information that can help you with for documentation and help you teach the lesson also. All right.
So I have a quick question.
All right.
Basically, the teacher, even after they've assigned it, that's where they would go back to kind of review or see if there's any resources about that lesson. Is that kind of what I'm understanding correctly?
Yeah, in theory, that would be done in the reverse. They would do all that first, but it didn't always happen that way. The way I use that I just showed you more than anything is, again, like a student's working on something, they say they listened to the instructional part. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. And you can just kind of quickly click into it and go, okay, they said this, this, and this. And so you know exactly, as the lesson plans are great, and especially for documentation if you have to turn anything in. But actually seeing what the student sees, to me, is more eye-opening, because you can cut to the chase so to speak, and get them back on track and get them busy. So, all right. Any other questions there? All right. Again, this is the time when I normally would say go into the program and work through it, but I don't think we have time for that right now unless you just want to. Now I'm jumping just because of the way the system works. This is the kind of information that a student would get, and a teacher for that matter. This is showing a teacher how many words per minute they're typing, their accuracy, all the different statistics. They just pick a date range of how long they've been working. But the same thing would happen for a teacher when if they want to run a report for a class or for a student. So another thing I like to point out here, which I mean, everybody knows this, but you may have a student that really excels in computer time or in keyboarding time, and this could be a bright spot in a otherwise maybe not so great parent conference. You could print out something and say, look how good they're doing with their typing. Look how, you could, and of course it would work the other way. If they're wasting time during their typing time, that would show up that, but try to turn a positive spin on it and show that. And again, they get feedback, how they're doing, when it says practice keys, if they're having a problem, it shows them that. And this is something, is something that is, to me, really important to them, even when they're older kids. As they begin working, they get these badges. And if you'll see on this static screen, it starts with a Keyboard Explorer. As soon as you start in adaptive keyboarding, you get one badge. But as you keep working, you get more. And that's actually more important to these older kids than I would have thought it is. They like to get them. And you can see like this level 2 one that you're seeing on my screen is grayed out. So it's letting them know they did well with level 1. They're busy at work on level 2, and that will come in full color once they've accomplished what they need to do in level 2. So they like to get those badges because, again, as they're earning badges, they're earning game time, which leads this. And again, the default setting, 6 minutes of game time for every 30 minutes of practice. Word defense, keyboarders. Again, the keyboarder one, everybody likes that because they're snowboarding down a mountain by typing as fast as they can and as accurately as they can. And again, it is a game. It is different than the regular lessons, but they're still working on their typing, and they really enjoy that game time. So good incentive for them as they're working. There's Dino Type, and there's 4 different games that they can get access to. And again, I've already shown you this, the student tools, and then the teacher's school. I've already gone through this a little bit of review. I don't want to waste your time with this. And again, when you log in as a teacher in your district, so you'll get to classes, and I need to go into my login to work. So when you log in, or the teachers log in, then they click on View Class, and it throws them right into their grade book, how they're doing. And here's one for adaptive keyboarding, and it says review. I didn't show this at the beginning, and I'm glad I'm showing it now. So if you see all these are the grades they did on working on whatever letters or whatever they're supposed to do. It's all automatically graded. You see this review button, that means that's something that the teacher themselves needs to look over. And what it does is it pulls up the information on what that child has been doing. So there's not enough room in that little cell, so it gives you a full report of how that particular child is doing with their accuracy, their words per minute, and what they've been practicing on. So lots of information, again, that you may not need to look at all the time. But if you're concerned about a student that you don't think is being productive in keyboarding time, or a child is working feverishly and doing really well and improving, this is what you do. You'd run this report, because like I said, when I do this, I'm pulling one student report on that one child's doing it, how they're doing on that. Or I could look at it as a class, how the whole class is doing on that particular lesson. All right, I'm trying to think if there's anything else on there. And again, this keeps showing TechQuest, and I'm not sure, Josh, if you're familiar with this. That's the fully automated program. So it would eventually get to keyboarding, but that throws in every digital literacy, online safety lesson, everything that learning.com has to offer. In the two ways to look at it is, it's the easiest one because everything's automatically assigned, automatically graded, but you lose any kind of input into what the kids are doing. If you choose that path, everything's automatic and you can't change anything. So you just decide which works best for y'all. And I've already shown you the teacher dashboard and the things that you can affect on that. So this is a little bit of a review on this. We've already talked about keyboarding goals and what you're shooting for. And ultimately, with this, you have the older ones, you want them to get up to 40 words per minute or more. But all important, 90% accuracy. Doesn't do any good to type 40 words a minute. They're not typing them the correct way. Now, this may be beneficial for you all. I think I still have just coordinators rather than teachers that I'm talking to. If you want to take a picture of this screen, you're welcome to. These are just some ideas on the way other teachers are using learning.com, because everybody doesn't just have all the time in the world to implement this. A lot of teachers might say, our daily routine is when you come in, you put down your book bag, give me your lunch count, or do whatever you're supposed to do automatically, and then you log on to learn.com until you see me stand up and start teaching. And that's their class warm-up every day. Of course, you could do a whole group lesson. Some of the online, there's a few online safety lessons that lend themselves to classroom discussions. You could do that. Small group or stations. The small group, I'm talking about it kind of in reverse, but like a teacher that has reading or math groups or whatever kind of, when they're working with small groups in the back of the classroom, it could be the classroom routine. When you see me working with a reading group, you're on learn.com until I call your reading group. And so the good thing about that is, I remember this as an elementary teacher, I would say, I'm going to be working with my reading group. Here's your assignment. And there would always be a child that came to me and said, I'm done. Now what do you want me to do? If you use learning.com, they're never going to run out of work. They're always going to have more lessons. You know, you could tell them work in regular learn.com, be working in your adaptive keyboarding or whatever, and the lessons just keep coming. So, and then of course they can work at home. There's not really any harm in that. Once they learn how to log on through OneRoster, I'm assuming they could do it through OneRoster at home also. And that means that they can proceed with this. The only thing I would say if I were a teacher is, if you're going to work on it at home, and some kids really get into it and want to, I say work on your keyboarding skills rather than the other lessons, because you may have a question. I mean, they're gonna do what they want if they're at home anyway, but I try to direct them in the order of adaptive keyboarding, because again, they're never going to run out. They're only going to improve their lessons, and there's a less likelihood of them getting to something that they don't understand, because it's kind of routine what they're used to doing. We have an online training center. I know we're winding up here. I didn't get a chance to show the other group that. It's right here. That is follow-up training with the kinds of things that I'm doing right now with you. And you mentioned that you used the word for getting professional development in your district. If they could, there's an option here to, like, if they get pre-approval with you or with whoever in the district, they can work through lessons on their own, and then they get a certificate to prove they did it, or how many hours work if they can do it. So here's Easy Tech, Tech Apps, and so on like that. So they could do that. Also, if there's anyone in need of a curriculum map, it's under curriculum resources. Very good on this. They can do an entire curriculum map, multi-page spreadsheet with a README page first that takes them through all the grades and everything that's needed, depending on which one you need. You click there. But also very important is this support button. The online training is just to learn more about learn.com. Support is where you either think there's a glitch, or you don't understand why the kids are doing what doing what they're doing or whatever. The first thing that my teachers liked best was in the bottom corner, there'll be a chat icon that'll pop up. Sometimes you can get an answer in real time while the kids are in the room with you. It might be just a quick question. Why is this coming up every time a child gets here? And you can get a quick answer in real time and move on with the class. Or you can go actually to the top where it says contact us and fill out a full ticket and start an email conversation if you think there's a real issue that needs to be resolved. These guys want to know if there is an issue, or to clear up if there's not one and you just need some more instruction. They're efficient and they want to get right to it. And then there's not a OneRoster thing. I was looking to see if they had a OneRoster link. But anyway, so that is pretty much everything that I can do in 30 minutes with it right quick. Are there any questions on there for me now? I'll stay on for a few minutes if you'd like for me to. I've asked Josh to send a follow-up survey to let me know how I did with this training. But I've enjoyed working with you all, and would love to help you in any other way I can. Again, this will come to you through an email that Josh will send. Easier than trying to get that real quick on here. Anybody else have anything, or Josh, can you think of something you wish I had covered I could go over right quick before we sign off?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Maybe one other thing I was kind of thinking when you were going through a while ago was coming off of that last question I had about how the teachers could go back. That's the same screen, just like any other learning path, right? Where you can click the little plus and that will actually assign.
That's it. I'll do that one more time, because
right.
it's.
I know that's pretty basic, but
right. I think say it's so easy, but I also have that in writing too. If you want me to send it to you, and you can kind of disseminate it as you think. But let's say you wanted to do all the keyboarding lessons for an 8th grader. So I log in as myself, hit library, keyboarding, tile, 8th grade, and it tells you right there on the screen that it's 43. And then you look up here in the top corner, and it says assign 43 items. It starts with getting them into adaptive keyboarding, and then zeroes in on other things that need to be working on with keyboarding. But once I click that button, it's not going to look the same on my screen. But when you do the drop down, it's going to show every class. So you could, like if you had 6 classes, you could assign every one of those lessons to all 6 classes at one time, or you can do individual ones. And again, I know this isn't what the training was about, but you also have the option, especially with keyboarding, of switching right at this screen. So remember, I'm in 8th grade in keyboarding. I can also switch this to Spanish. And there's not any there for that one. It's not showing up now. But my point is, when you do that, that is not like, if you remember from the closed captioning, it would put Spanish subtitles. If you switch it on this screen, then you are going to straight up Spanish lessons, because we all may say we want everyone to be able to learn English, but we're beating their heads against the wall if they're trying to learn to type and they don't even understand what's being said. So this is a full Spanish lesson. So in that respect, and again, I'm getting into more than y'all asked, but that's when you would form a subgroup or just a group under a class and call it, Miss Morales Superstars or whatever you want to say, and make specific lessons for them. You definitely don't want to assign 43 Spanish lessons to the regular population. You really throw them off, but you can sign them and just lean over to that child and say, click here today and let's work in this. They have that. The 2 places that they focused on for ensuring they have full-on Spanish lessons are keyboarding and online safety. Again, 2 very important things that we're not doing anybody any good by saying you should understand English if they don't. So you're teaching them how to be safe online through a Spanish-speaking person using those examples, and same thing with some of the basics. Let me go into just show you one time. 4th grade, English, Spanish.
That's fantastic, because I didn't even know about that. So.
Right. So this time I did it for 4th grade. And keep this in mind, since I didn't see any in 8th grade, I thought there were some. You could do the 4th grade version, and it doesn't say on the screen to the child themselves or to their neighbors, okay, this child's now working in 4th grade. So if Josh, you had a class and you had some kids that you just knew they didn't speak one word of English and they need to learn how to type, then you might could drop to 4th or 5th or whatever, and you see it says there's 5 lessons under the word. When you click the Spanish, there's 5 lessons, and so you would assign it just to them. You don't have to worry about it saying you're now working in 4th grade. It's not going to say something like that. It's just another lesson. It's just that it's in Spanish.
That's fantastic.
Okay, and like I said, the same thing is true for online safety, especially at the younger grades. It switches over. Sometimes those closed captioning that you said you were familiar with almost is more confusing because they're speaking in English. Sometimes the words in English are going across the page and then Spanish subtitles. This is not like that. This is a Spanish lesson. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. And like I said, if you have any other questions, I'll stay on for a few minutes. Otherwise, I have enjoyed working with you, and I wish you good luck throughout this year and the upcoming holiday season. And I'll stay in touch with us, and we'll be glad to follow up with anything else we need to.